Hey, Betty.
Hi, Pete. Mr. Jameson wants you.
Parker, my office, now!
What he said.
I need pictures for tomorrow's front page.
Spider-Man bolts while building burns? But he saved all those people. What's your problem with Spidey, Mr. Jameson? He's a good guy.
Good guys don't sell papers. Jameson!
Hello, Jonah. I've got a scoop for you. Tomorrow morning, this city will be a pile of ashes.
Who is this? What do you want? And how'd you get my direct line?
This town ruined me, and now it's payback time. I've planted bombs underground, and in a few minutes, Manhattan will burn.
Hello? Hello? Just what I need today, another whack job. So kid, like I was... Parker!
I have to find those bombs.
Man, we are one lucky son of a bitch, you know that? If Carlisle hadn't decided to call into the Daily Bugle, there is no way we would have ever known about this shit. Of course, there is a reason that Carlisle decided to call in Aunt Jameson specifically, but we'll get into that when the story covers it. For now, just think about how lucky Spider-Man is to be working for the Daily Bugle for once in his life. We've been down to the subway before briefly, when we were taking out the Apocalypse Gang.
Time for a break.
That was our first introduction to a non-standard enemy type, I think, a big guy carrying a stop sign. This time what awaits us is decidedly less threatening, believe it or not. Yeah, less threatening than the easiest gang in the city. And I suppose that's mostly because this mission consists of what the game considers to be puzzles. To be fair, I consider the basic beat-em-up combat more of a puzzle. So I wish the game would stick with that, because that's clearly what it's good at.
It looks like one of the guys that tried to blow up that building. I better follow him.
Have I mentioned that this mission has no overarching time limit? You can stand still in the subway for as long as you like and nothing bad will happen. The bombs will never go off. Anyway, after we do follow him into this giant hole in the wall, we come across a small gathering of henchmen. But they're weak to every attack in our arsenal, so pretty much anything we use on them will be a guaranteed victory unless we just stand still and take hits. After all, this is the exact same enemy type that we fought in the game's tutorial. Still, it's fun to knock the physics objects all over the place.
It looks like they were using this room as a staging area. Maybe they left a clue that'll help me track down those bombs. This is bad. They've planted bombs all over the subway. Even in this room.
So in case you've forgotten how we disarmed the bombs in the tutorial, we simply crawl toward them and then hold down circle when we're near them. Spider-Man automatically webs them up and then they explode. Of course, even if you didn't remember the tutorial, there's a big circle button prompt that appears, which should remove any doubt. Again, I think having a big overarching timer in addition to the smaller timers for these individual bombs would put a lot more tension into this mission, because these bombs tick down much too slowly to be any kind of tension by themselves. You would have to be hilariously incompetent at the movement system not to get these bombs in time, and I mean really, really hilariously incompetent at it.
So that's that. There's still at least one bomb out there. Better track it down.
This is one of those situations where the protagonist knowing exactly where the bomb is completely justified because he just read where all the bombs are placed. And the reason he knows where all the bombs are placed is because he saw a henchman fly into that big hole in the wall. So any information Spider-Man has during this mission is information that he reasonably obtained in-universe. Which is, I mean, it's not a lot. That's how it should always be. But it's nice that they put in the extra effort and didn't give Spider-Man psychic powers.
Lift this plate by myself. I wonder if I could use one of those trains somehow. I bet one of those subway trains could get the plate off if I could just find a way to attach them. not more powerful than a locomotive. Good thing one was handy.
You say you're not more powerful than a locomotive, but you shouldn't be so down on yourself because your most famous scene from the previous game is you literally stopping one in its tracks. Maybe you just forgot. It happens to the best of us. So this is how the game's idea of bomb defusal works. It's a bunch of really weird... Shut up, Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell, shut up. People know how video games work. They don't need me to explain this puzzle to them. It is incredibly self-explanatory. I'm just trying to talk about the overarching game design behind it.
That's that. But there's still at least one bomb out there. Better track it down.
As I was saying, the game's idea of bomb defusal, at least for the larger bombs, is to play a series of mini-games while a timer ticks down. Some of them are basic QuickTime events, actually most of them are basic QuickTime events, and one of them is an incredibly gimped version of Pipe Mania, or Bloatia if you're a hipster. And having the player rapidly perform a bunch of small tasks while a timer ticks down sounds like a recipe for tension and challenge and excitement, at least if WarioWare is anything to go by. The problem is that the timers on these bombs, they're far too lenient, and the bombs don't even begin ticking until we get incredibly close to them. Because that's how bombs work, I was made to understand. They don't start ticking until the protagonist gets in range to defuse them. And I understand this is in part a tutorial for bomb defusal. They're introducing you... Bruce Campbell, I'm talking. This is in part a tutorial for the bomb defusal. They're getting you used to the mini-games you use to defuse the bomb, so that way when it comes up later in a more difficult context, you won't be caught by surprise. Basic game design stuff, right? But it just makes the whole mission feel like a really boring slog. Remember, in-universe right now, we're disarming these bombs because if we don't, the entire city will be turned to ashes. Do you feel any of that tension here? Especially considering we can just goof around in the subway as long as we want and none of the bombs will actually explode. Because I sure don't. It doesn't feel like I'm saving a city right now, I can tell you that. And there is a middle ground here. It's possible to make the timers challenging and still present this mission as a tutorial for how bomb defusal works. You can do both, you know? At least the timer started from further away this time. And eventually, the timer will start at the beginning of a mission, instead of waiting until we get close to the bomb. I'm just not sure why it couldn't be that way this time. These bomb defusal minigames are far easier than the basic beat-em-up combat that you contend with for most of the game. And the basic beat-em-up combat is kind of user-unfriendly, just as the beat-em-up combat in the original Spider-Man movie game was a bit user-unfriendly. That's not because it's bad, that's because it's nuanced, like a good puzzle. You know, there's a lot of simple touches in figuring out which combos work against the bosses, which enemy types are vulnerable to which attacks, which specials are the best for which situations. It's fun. It's fun to figure out the solutions to these punchy puzzles. So then why are they stressing these basic bomb defusal minigames like I'm a kindergartner? Do they really need to make absolutely sure that I know how to play a gimped version of Pipe Mania? It's just hard to fathom the idea behind this design decision. They had to be aware their beat-em-up combat was going to be a little bit hard to figure out for the average consumer. And yet they spend almost no time going over that, and spend a lot of time hammering in how to beat basic bomb defusal minigames. Anyway, this is the last bomb to defuse for this mission, and for some reason the timer for this one is humorously much higher than all the others. Like they expected it to take me 7 minutes to move that train car back there. And it's not like this particular bomb defusal takes that long, we're already done with it.
Stop this train somehow. spider sense is going crazy. What's up over there?
Just a few more to go. Man, half the city will be underwater after these babies go off.
So something I find rather enjoyable about this first encounter is that if you fall down beneath the buildings, the henchmen will follow you, and then they'll be incapable of climbing back up. I suppose they really should have thought about that ahead of time. So we're back to bomb defusal, and this time the bombs have stepped up their game a little bit. The timers are less lenient, but there's still nothing to worry about. Some of the minigames also get slightly more complex, such as the Pipe Mania minigame now having several more routes that intersect. But the new, less lenient time limits in combination with the slightly more complex minigames is the bare minimum that I would be willing to call challenging. This is what they should have been using the first time around, when they were just teaching the player about how these things work. Because look at that, I had a whole minute left.
One down. Who knows how many to go?
I would have liked it if this mission was a direct lead-up from the previous one, like Spider-Man followed one of the henchmen above ground and that's how he found out about these bombs. But instead, he just happened to luck into finding the bombs, which is much less convincing than him finding out through Carlisle's taunts, like he did last time. At first, this new bomb might seem genuinely difficult because we start with around a minute left, but the choice of minigames ensures that we'll finish with a minute left still. If they included 1 or 2 Pipe Mania minigames in here, then maybe we would have something to worry about, but what was that, 10 seconds, 15 seconds?
That didn't work. Looks like I'll have to use the brute force method instead. Wow, who knew disarming bombs was so easy? Leave it for the bomb squad. Yeah, whatever. From now on, I am the bomb squad.
So as you just saw, sometimes even if we disarm the bomb in time, it won't disarm properly and we have to kick it into the water instead. This has nothing to do with player performance and is entirely scripted, so don't worry, you didn't do anything wrong.
You'll never catch all of us!
Oh, sure. Bomb and run. Better get that bomb before I fight the thugs. Looks like I'll have to use the brute force method instead.
It's important to note that if our kick does miss the water, and the bomb instead lands on the street or on a boat, then we will fail the mission. And if you're wondering why Spidey bothers to disarm the bombs in the first place, instead of just always kicking them, it's because kicking a bomb is incredibly dangerous, so it makes sense that he would want to use it as a last resort. Now to catch up with the jetpack bombers. And I promise there's a reason we're constantly yanking this man down toward the ground. It might not be obvious now, but we're attempting to trigger a context-specific event that has a hard time triggering appropriately. There we go. We're trying to grab onto him, so that way we can ride him around and smack him into buildings. Now instead of doing this, we could just punch him normally, but I think you'll agree this method is much more humorous and enjoyable. The only problem with using that method is, as you saw, it's difficult to trigger properly. The idea is to hold down the circle button and then Spidey will automatically start riding the jetpack bomber, but it doesn't pan out that way all the time. Sometimes you have to spam the circle button, sometimes you have to punch him a few times first, who knows? I decided that skipping the bomb defusal minigames from here on out might be a better idea. Anyway, now we have to track down the second jetpack bomber and deal with him. Hopefully with much less fuss this time. Maybe he'll just let us ride on his jetpack. Don't be a jerk about it. There we go. In addition to ramming these guys into walls, we can also ram them into cars, but we have to be careful to ram into the sides of the cars, otherwise he'll just kind of slide off. Excuse me, sir, I'm sure you didn't mean to hit me, but Okay, you know, I'm wearing a bright red and blue outfit. it would be very difficult not to notice me in the middle of the street, frankly, and you know you hit something, right? There's no way you couldn't notice that you hit something. This time we have to take care of this guy before we can disarm the bomb, but they're so easy to deal with.
You're crazy. That bomb will blow you up too. That's it for these guys. But the bombings won't stop until I find their boss.